Okay, one of the goals of .NET 6 and somewhat in .NET 5, but they continue to push it forward, was simplified development. And so here's some examples now where they've really simplified the development model. So the templates where you can say file new project inside Visual Studio, they've added more of the templates, and I think they have all the common ones available in the command line interface, where you can type the name of the template and scaffold it out at command line. And also they've enabled hot reload, which we'll talk about in a minute, on the command line, which means that you can run a job maybe that doesn't have a user interface, or even if it does, you can run it command line and say .NET watch run and enable it with hot reload while you're changing the code. And every time you change the code, it'll immediately change it. You won't have to stop and restart the application. And also .NET 6 is the first release that natively supports Apple Silicon ARM64 machines. And you know, quite a few developers, especially those that have done iPhone applications for years, like to use Mac, and so Apple Silicon, it does support that, or for desktop applications that just run on Windows ARM64 as well as Apple Silicon. And there is another one that I'll highlight, which is the last one, save the best for last on this slide, and that's the single file EXEs. Okay, we're talking about architectural implementations, thing that you should really take notice on. There's some of these announcements where it's an improvement and we like it and we'll use it. This one's huge. This one is huge. Single file EXEs for all platforms. It has been 20 years since Microsoft platform development teams have been able to distribute a single EXE for a program that does things. We're talking about in the 90s with the Visual C++ and Visual Basic platforms that compiled into a single EXE, and then all you had to have was that executable to run your program. Starting with .NET 1, you had an entire directory where you had the application, you had the EXE, but then you had all of the assemblies, all of the DLLs and everything in an entire directory, and you had to zip that up and ship it over. With .NET 5, there were self-extracting EXEs, so don't get this confused. There were self-extracting EXEs, so you could distribute a program as an EXE with .NET 5, but when that EXE was not your program, that EXE was some Microsoft wrapper. When you executed it behind the scenes, it acted like a zip file. It exploded your directory of files, which was your EXE and all the assemblies, into some other temporary directory that you did not choose, and then it ran your program from that other directory that you did not choose, and that was completely disconnected from your top level directory, which probably had your configuration files or access to your data files. So the .NET app domain is running with a working directory in some Windows directory that you did not choose because it was extracted as step one. .NET 6 fixes that. And now you can write Windows applications, you can write command line applications, you can write system tray, WPF applications, and you can distribute those however you like to as a single EXE, and they will run from that directory. And so it is fully seamless now. You can have your configuration files right next, app settings.json, or you can have those configuration files right next to the EXE, and you know where it's running from. The app domain runs from the directory that it's being run from. And so for people who are writing applications that run natively on the desktop, and that is huge. That is huge.